Hello there, YouTube.
Devin here again. I have a cool comparison video here for you guys between two M95 rifles I own. Now one, I'm nearly 100% certain was made in kind of the last year or two of World War I, and another one that was made pre-World War I and then refurbished sometime just before World War II, as indicated by the 1939 date underneath the barrel. Which means it received a new barrel in 1939, which is probably when it got its new stock and everything like that. But it somehow, because no receivers were made after 1918 except for by the Czechs, and they only made like 2,000 and they're all marked Brno, and this one is not one of those. These are both Steyr-made rifles originally. One is probably pre-war or very early World War I, and the other one you can tell based on kind of just the fit and finish that it was probably closer to a last-ditch rifle. And by the fact that it has some cool little factors we'll show you here, and we'll show you some cool accessories with the M95 too. So this is my super nice, basically mint M95. This one started its life as a Austrian contracted and accepted M95. It is a long rifle. It has despite the fact that it went through refurbishment, it has the sights that are still originally marked in Schritt, all the way out to 2600 Schritt. Now a Schritt is about pace, which was a very common measurement in World War I, used by a lot of different countries. You see it used by the Austro-Hungarians, the Romanians used it, the Russians used it, but they used it in Arshins. So there was a whole bunch of different countries that had different measurements based off of paces. So this one retained its original ladder sight, marked all the way out to 2600 Schritt, via a little V notch there. I'll see if I can get that up closer to the camera for you guys so you can see it. Hopefully it focuses a little better. But you can see it's marked only on one side. That's very indicative of the very Austrian ones and stuff like that, and even the later Bulgarian ones. Bulgarian ones would have been marked in meters. They would have been kind of ground down and then remarked. This one has a very positive lock on it still. That's something you find pretty worn out, so it's hard to see an original long sight in this. I shouldn't say rare, but more uncommon. You could find any different combination of parts and fits and finishes and stuff like that on these M95s because they went through so many different hands over the course of their life. But this one is a Bulgarian reworked one, which is why it has this brand new beechwood stock on it. They're very narrow. Overall rifle, very, very, very narrow rifles overall. For as long as they are, they don't really weigh that much. I can handle it. As you can see, this is a very long rifle. It's 50 inches long. And I can hold it with one hand and you know, maneuver this thing around pretty easily because of how light it is, despite the fact its length is 50 inches long. This is one of the ones that survived with its original hand-fitted bolt, so it's very smooth. A lot of people don't know that these are incredibly smooth rifles, so if you don't have hand-fitted bolts, it's not going to be super good as far as roughness is. A lot of them, especially during or after World War I at some point, were retrofitted and the bolts were taken out of them, and then bolts were just thrown back into them when they were accepted back into service and stuff like that, which is kind of a weird thing. So I got some dummy cartridges in here right now for you guys to see one of my favorite features of this rifle, which is something that's a favorite by a lot of you Americans, which is the same technology actually. Technology that was used by the fact that the U.S. Rifle caliber 30 Model 1 or whatever it is, the M1 Garand, uses Mannlicher end block clip technology. And that's the fact that this thing will eject clips right out of it. So I don't want to do that with live ammo, so I preloaded it with some dummy cartridges, which is pretty neat. So this is what they look like. This is a dummy former Privy Partisan round. So they're pretty neat. They're the only manufacturer I think that still makes 8x56 rimmed. These originally would have been chambered in 8x50 rimmed. Overall, I don't have an 8x50 rimmed handy, unfortunately, but overall they would have been the same length actually. The only thing that changed was that the case got a little bit longer and the bullet got a little bit shorter, so the overall round length stayed the same, but they did that when they upgraded to the Spitzer round, so they got a lot more muzzle velocity and feet per second and everything out of it. So, but original 1895s with their hand-fitted bolts can be found, and they are, like I said, very incredibly smooth. That doesn't require a lot of force to overcome. Once you get past that initial kind of camming action, this is a very smooth rifle. Unfortunately, even the not smooth ones, you can manhandle them. They will respond to you working the action. Handling a straight pull is not the same as handling a turn bolt, though. You have to be making sure you're not putting any torquing force on the bolt, because if you push down when you're trying to push the bolt in, it will bind. If you pull up while you're pushing the bolt in, it'll bind. If you push left or right, it'll bind. You have to be very good at practicing that straight back and straight forward, or otherwise you're going to have some issues with the binding of the bolt. That's just the nature of how straight pulls work. It does that with pretty much all of them. Even the Swiss rifles will do that. Not near as bad, but they are obviously much newer and better designed than this one is, than the 1895 style of action. Especially when you get to the K31, it had basically all of the slop refined out of that style of action. But this is my super neat Bulgarian refurbed World War I Austrian M95, so pretty neat to have. I'll show you the receiver kind of here up close, so you can see the fact that there's beautiful, no machine marks, no chatter or anything on there. It's beautifully machined. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And my other one that I bought specifically because you can confirm that it's a World War I dated one by a few features. The fact that the sight is only marked halfway. That's something they kind of did in the last part of World War I. They realized they didn't need to go all the way out to max distance, so you see the sights marked halfway. Pretty simple. This one, the spring on it does not work super good, so it doesn't. It kind of slides freely whenever it is, but that's just how it is. I bought it basically for the history behind it, not because I wanted it to function super well. This one does not have its original bolt, so it's much more bindy and sticky than the other one here. This one also stayed in Austrian service. It has the simple S on it. I don't know if I could get that with the light. So if you see that there, the S doesn't have these little tail hooks on it that the Bulgarian one does. So I'll show you the Bulgarian one if it'll look. So there's different little ends of the S's. This one is a very simple S on the actual Austrian ones. When they received the Spitzer upgrade, they got a very simple S stamp, and they're often marked further forward on the barrels, whereas so they don't cover up the proof marks on the barrels of the rifle, whereas the Bulgarians and the Hungarians and the Czechs didn't care. They stamped theirs right over the proof marks, which is a pretty good indicator of who yours was made by. The Czechs marked theirs with an S as well. The very few of those exist, though, unfortunately. Actual Czech marked ones. Most of them were sold to Bulgaria, kind of in the 20s, late 20s, early 30s, because Bulgaria was basically the only country using this through World War II other than Austria. Pretty much everyone got rid of them. The Austrians kept theirs, and you'll find theirs with the simple S, usually marked further forward. The Bulgarians will have the fancy S, usually right over the chamber part of the barrel, and it will be covering up the proof marks for the most part. That's just how it is. I have some cool other little knickknacks other than that sling that you saw. It's a reproduction sling. I have an ersatz bayonet here, M95 ersatz bayonet, really cheap, made out of spring metal, meant to just take place of the bayonet. Blade's the same length, it just doesn't have a nice, good ergonomic handle. Kind of neat, glad I got one of those. Another thing that I got is I got all of these cool clips. These are actual clips these are all the later ones with the window cutouts to save basically material. This is what the original ones would have looked like for the 1886 and the 8890. They would have been solid like this. Now these ones have live privy ammo in there, so I'm not going to be putting this into a rifle today. And this one is an original on the original clip surplus rounds. So these ones are actual Austrian-made ammunition from 1938. Most of this ammo is dated from, which is what you find most of the surplus ammo dated from. And this is what the back of the case looks like if it'll focus. So it has a little eye, and it has a two-headed eagle, and then it has 1938 on either side, and there's a big X that kind of divides the base of the round into four quadrants, as you can see there. So 1938, sorry. And the privy stuff is a little bit different. So theirs just says PPU and then 8x56 rimmed smokeless. So it has RS abbreviation on it, and it's good ammo. Privy makes a lot of people like to crap on it, but it's actually pretty decent ammo for surplus shooting. It's not the super most consistent, but it's for my purposes good ammo, and the brass is incredibly reloadable. They make very good brass, so which is something Privy doesn't get enough credit for, I think. So I'm just trying to put this all back in the clip here the way it's supposed to, because they have to go in a specific way so they don't rim lock. So you got to be careful about that. And then put the surplus rounds back in there. And then these can only be loaded into the gun one way. A lot of people, a lot of the countries, such as the Italians, the Dutch, the Romanians, the French who copied this, the Americans later with the M1 Garand and everything, theirs are bidirectional, which means it doesn't matter which way you put it in. The original commission rifle from Germany, the 1888 commission rifle, had a reversible clip. The Austrians and Austro-Hungarians, Bulgarians never did that. Theirs are only a one-directional type, but they're easy to tell in the dark and everything like that, because they have these little ribs at the top. That's how you know that's the top, and you just jam that into the rifle. This magazine has a lot of benefits over the other magazines in the fact that in the dark it's very easy to load. There's no fine manipulation in this, which means you don't need to use your fingers at all to load this rifle. Whereas with a German rifle, you have to find that little charger guide or stripper clip guide in the dark. If you can't see it, it's pitch black. That's kind of hard to do. You have to like feel for it. Whereas this is, you pull the bolt back, all right, you find hole, pretty easy, and then push. Done. That's all you need to do. It's not hard to do in the dark. It's very easy to do with gloved hands. It's a neat feature that a lot of people kind of took advantage of. It was a very at the time of smokeless powder being coming out, this was the most advanced magazine in the world, so it obviously drew some attention. The fact that America made a double stack end block clip and used it through World War II and the Korean War and even into Vietnam, so it must have been some cool technology. I also have all these clips from different manufacturers. I don't know how well they'll show up on camera, but so the original, take all the rounds out of it here. The original 1886 clips have a, if I could get it to focus here, we'll see if I could get it to focus. Probably not, but it has a little C and R in a circle. I don't know what that manufacturer is. I haven't taken time to look all these up just yet. This one is an original. It is, I don't know, for those of you who can't tell what that is right away, that is a Waffenamt 1895 clip right there. It's the little eagle carrying the swastika in the circle there. This is one that is just an original Austrian eagle marked one. Nothing fancy on it. Sorry I can't get the camera to focus on these, you guys, but these are all available on Google. You can see them all, look them up individually. This one is an H in a circle. I like all these clips. I like collecting all these different clips. This one's a W in a circle. This one's pretty big. And then this one is just some kind of like tower shape or like upside down Y or something like that. It's a little weird. It's hard to describe too. It's an awkward shape. So I don't know who made those or if they're any more rare than the other ones or not, but some neat stuff here. And so there's tons of different collectors and different items you could collect, versions. Long rifles cut down into Stutson rifles. Carbines are basically non-existent because the only difference between carbines and Stutsons were the swing swivels. So most of them were converted to Stutsons. And but you can find long rifles, you can find Bulgarian ones, you can find Czech ones, Austro-Hungarian ones. You can find them upgraded by everyone under the sun. They all changed hands throughout their lives for a lot of time. Bulgaria ended up with most of them. You can find them unupgraded to the Spitzer rounds, some of them upgraded to Spitzer rounds. You could find original configuration carbines. You could find them with different wood. You can find them with different sights. You can find them in this case where it has two different kinds of wood on it. It has a walnut bottom and an elm upper, which was indicative of late World War I when they started to run out of wood. They switched to elm, which is not as good of a wood. It's very grainy and it's prone to breaking. It's nowhere near as strong. You can find them, so this one, as you can see, I'll show you the receiver on this one. Nowhere near as nice as fit and finish. It's got shattered machine marks. It's not entirely flat there. It's got a lot of problems with this. There's little dents and dings up here in the receiver, but it worked just fine. It's perfectly safe to shoot, but the fit and finish on it is nowhere near as nice, which is probably why that one is, without a doubt, made during late World War I by the fact that it has elm furniture, and the quality on the finish is nowhere near as nice as it would have been early war, pre-war, or post-war. So just a neat thing to see. So hopefully you guys like this video. You subscribe if you like this sort of thing. I love M95s, one of my favorite rifles out there in existence. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. It was a very information heavy video, unfortunately. If you have any cool information on any of these clips, or if you've or any of the manufacturers of these clips, if you have any information on the ammo itself, what you think about the action itself, what you think of the Stutson versus the long rifle, if you have one that's a weird combination like I have here, a couple of them, if you have any cool accessories or anything with yours, I'd love to hear about all that stuff in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this very much, and hopefully I will see you all out here eventually in a couple videos shooting these over the summer and everything like that, as the weather continues to get nice and the world continues to improve based on this whole coronavirus thing, and they're realizing it's not as bad as everyone seems to think, and the world slowly returns back to normal. I hope to be able to get outside a little bit more, get away from work and all that other good jazz. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. Hopefully I'll get to see you all in the next video, and hopefully you enjoyed this. Feel free to leave me a comment, leave a like, all that other good stuff. If you think I'm worthy of a donation or a contribution, there's links to that on the About section of my channel. PayPal's the best. I get 100% of the proceeds, whereas Patreon and everything else will take a percentage away. So thank you all for watching, and hopefully I will see you all in the next video. Bye.